The two extremes of life. The very young under 2 years and those above 65 years. These most vulnerable groups are susceptible to pneumonia infection owing to their levels of immunity. But that is not to say that those between these age groups cannot be infected with pneumonia bacteria or viruses.
What causes pneumonia is inhaling the organism most times, and this organism can come from the air or aspirating it when something comes from the mouth and the person aspirates into the lungs, or sometimes it can come from organisms from other parts of the body. Smoking is a risk factor because smoking damages your airways, so people who smoke are at higher risk of pneumonia. Alcoholics are also at high risk of pneumonia because sometimes they get drowsy, and when they are drunk and drowsy, what happens is that they have a higher chance of aspirating. And I said aspiration is one of the routes through which you can get organisms into your lungs. Drinking cold water or cold drinks does not cause pneumonia. There has to be an infection. But during certain seasons, when the weather is cold, the airways are more prone to being infected by organisms, particularly viral organisms.
Pneumonia, which has symptoms such as cough, fever, chest pain, fast breathing, and feeling short of breath, among others, is still among the leading killers of children under 5 years, accounting for 15% of all deaths in that age group worldwide in 2015.
Pneumonia will present with cough, fever, chest pain. TB will present with cough, fever, chest pain. Cancer of the lungs will present with fever, chest pain. All. Now, how do you now distinguish the cough of pneumonia from the cough of TB, from the cough of cancer? That is what training to be a doctor and training to be a specialist is all about. So once you have a cough, see your doctor. The doctor will now determine whether it's pneumonia or TB or cancer or whatever.
In Nigeria, the burden of pneumonia is quite high, like in other parts of the world, because pneumonia complicates almost all other conditions. But the challenges facing the treatment of pneumonia in Nigeria include lack of appropriate knowledge by the doctors and not following guidelines. Though we don't have real local guidelines based on organisms that are found in Nigeria, which is a real challenge because ideally we should have data showing the common organisms causing pneumonia in Nigeria such that we have the right drugs that we should use when people have pneumonia in Nigeria. Right now, we mostly follow international guidelines.
Although Haemophilus influenza type B is part of the pentavalent vaccine given during immunization in Nigeria and the federal government's introduction of the pneumococcal conjugate vaccine in 2014 has been commended by some medical practitioners, there are some concerns.
These vaccines are imported from Europe, America, and they are made against the germs in that environment. And we're hoping and believing that it is the same germs we have here in Nigeria, which may not be true. So the ideal situation is that we should make our own vaccines here in Nigeria against the germs that we have here in Nigeria.